Hello, and welcome back to the second session of Wacom Career Days, the online event where self-employed artists and studio professionals will share their insights and experiences on how to pursue a professional career as a creative. My name is Onur, and I'm still your host for today. We have another exciting session waiting for you, but before jumping into the talk, I will once again go through the basics with you. So our session will last approximately 45 minutes with a dedicated Q&A at the end. And we will keep an eye on the chat, so feel free to send your questions anytime you wish. We are all here to learn from the experience of our speakers, so please be kind to each other and keep the chat clean for session-related questions and commentary during the presentation. And if you have to leave early, don't worry, the session is recorded and will be available on Wacom YouTube page in the following days. And those of you who have registered will also receive a follow-up email with summary and additional information next week. Yes, a little bit of advertisement from our side. To show our appreciation to all of you who take part in the sessions and take time for it, we have an outstanding offer for you. By using the discount code on the screen at Wacom Europe or UK eStore, you can get 15% discount on our special creative bundles. I will give you a few seconds to scan the QR code, or you can check the video description for the link. So this is a limited time offer. You don't want to miss it. Yes, finally, time to start. We have Wieger Poutsma with us. Wieger is a first-generation digital artist with over 25 years of experience. He is an all-around digital creator with a dynamic career journey. Nowadays, Wieger is fully focused on motion picture and series as a digital artist and as a CG supervisor. So without further ado, Wieger, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Onur, for introducing me. Welcome, everybody. I feel really stoked to be here and do my talk about my career and about how you can build your brand. So, without waiting any longer, let's start. I'm Wieger Poutsma. I'm a digital artist, and I was founder of Fisk Imaging in Amsterdam, a company that's no longer really working anymore, but I got my new company. Wieger Poutsma Video Effects, which is later on more clear why. Next to digital artist, the last few years I've been a CG supervisor, learning a lot down the way, and basically I'm working for many brands. I took a little group of brands I'm really proud of. I feel really privileged to show you that these kind of brands are brands I'm working for. Sometimes bigger projects, sometimes smaller projects, but basically this is the selection. My talk will be in 4 parts. One part will be my career until now. The second one will be a little bit an insight in how you can build your brand. The third one, the elephant in the room, we have to talk about it, new technologies. And the last one, if we have time, I'm going to try and get there with us. I've got a few one-liners and facts that would have helped me if I would have started over or would start now to get into this business. So, how to build your brand. My career to date. My career started actually by seeing this movie. Everybody knows it, Star Wars, of course. I'm from the generation that I saw it in the movie theater. And for me, it blew my mind. I saw things going on that I didn't see before, special effects. That was like, wow, it's amazing to see how they did things. A lot of stop motion these days, not so much CG, not so much made digitally, but still amazing. And when I came home, we had Reader's Digest, a magazine. In the magazine, there was this story about a guy who was working with ILM. And you have to realize this was before internet, this was before email, this was before all the things we now take for granted. So for me, Hollywood was far, far, far away, like the galaxy. And it was, for me, an unreachable place to think about ever working. I didn't know this was a profession. You would see sometimes something like pictures like this, but most of the time we didn't have the making of. We didn't have all these things that we are now used to. You could look at me best as a dinosaur in a modern toy store. I'm the first generation digital artist, which means that I started before there were computers. My mother came into my room and she said, listen, you're airbrushing now, you're working with pens and pencils and whatever have you, but there's something new coming into this country and it might be something interesting for you. It's called a personal computer. I don't know what it is, I don't know what it can do, but maybe it's for you nice to check it out and see if it's something you can use. How right she was. So left top, you see my first computer, my Amiga. It didn't have a hard drive, which at that moment I thought was not a problem. You couldn't get viruses, you couldn't get things because the hard drive, every time you shut down your computer, it was blanked. It had 1 megabyte of RAM only, so it was tiny. Imagine this now with our iPhone. On the top right, you see me in the 90s, the period we're going to talk about in a moment. The period where house music was coming up, where experimental techniques were part of this whole house culture. And below on the right, you see the way we work right now with the tablets and the pen displays. And it's a completely different world, to be honest. If you compare the old computers to the new way of working, I was working with a mouse during those days. Do you see? That was different. Anyway, in this period, I was very active in the nightlife, and I met a lot of DJs, met a lot of club owners, and they all wanted flyers or they wanted all kinds of CD sleeves, record sleeves. And at that moment, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have an education. I was dropped out from school. I didn't know how this all would work. So I was just playing with my computer, making things and sending it out to the printer. And then when it came back wrong, I said, how cool this looks. This looks amazing, by the way. Don't you think so? Well, then I went back to the printer and then I asked him, listen, what did I do wrong? Of course, because I want to learn. Hand in hand with these print pictures, I also made my first animations. And during those days, you had to wait like weeks and weeks for it to render. And it was only rendered small and with bad resolution. This is why the resolution is so low in these images. And then at the last day before the deadline, that was the first moment where I could dump everything on a Betacam tape, which is a bit like a music tape, but only bigger, and frame by frame. And then for the first time, I could see my animation run. So timing, I don't know. I was just trying something and everything goes. Everything was cool. This was in the time when also Dire Straits had their video clip with Money for Nothing. The first computer graphics were introduced in that. You had Max Headroom, which was half video, half computer graphics. And you had very exotic computers called Paintbox and Harry and Henry, which were mainframe computers. And, that was the first time I saw drawing tablets. This was way before Wacom. Very cool, but very expensive equipment. I started to make my way into this world. I was completely blown away by the possibilities. And for me, drawing something without making much mistakes or things like I was used to with airbrush, being able to undo, being able to distort things and change colors afterwards, for me was amazing. And I went into this world of advertising and image manipulation and soon made a name for myself just by doing jobs. And you can see several here. Many of them have people, some not. But you have to remind, during those days, making an image this big on a whole building that was made as a patchwork, it was in quilt, they called it. So you took a tile of 40 megabytes, did some retouching, put it back and took the next tile. And then you could tile by tile build the whole image. So it was like building in Lego. If you think about it, it's crazy. I started to build a name and I started to build my own signature, my own handwriting, my own way of working. And I joined up with somebody I knew already from the nightlife, Erwin Olaf, a photographer, amazing photographer who was making his first steps into the art scene. And he had this idea about this series about famous people from world history and how they died in a violent way. And during those days, it was just a matter of experimenting, drawing on the pictures, getting all kinds of scans in and doing stuff and seeing what happened, if it was good or not. I soon introduced something I was doing already on my Amiga computer, the 3D. I thought, the 3D, which we now call CGI, that's interesting, and we can make something that looks almost photographical. Let's see how far I can push that, and let's see if I can get photographers to embrace it and to take it along with their photography and make images that maybe would be difficult for them to make in other way. Advertising saw this as a good way of working soon, and they also embraced it, and they used it to take away model making. So here you've got some separate images, and you've got one 3D scene, which later on I combined in compositing. Since I was already experimenting with animation back in the day of my Amiga, I got my first little steps in when I was doing stills. People asked, can you also animate it? Yeah, of course I can. So I started to do simulations, fluid simulations, combine it with real footage of backgrounds of, in this case, a forest. And I started to evolve in this, and it looked really nice, and I was really happy doing it. And I had lots of fun making animations again, because I was still thinking about the whole Star Wars thing. Advertising took me back every time, and every time it was like, okay, we're going to do these stills. We want these stills. Can you do stills? Fine, I can do stills. But I was also myself experimenting, seeing images of other artists and seeing if I could make the lighting the same way, or if I could experiment with specific type of lighting I saw in normal live shots. And these shots I always made into little projects for myself. Also, this project, the project that is being embraced by Wacom for this whole event, was an animation that basically I made for my company as a New Year's greet. And at that moment, and this is something we'll get back later, but at that moment people said, just make it rough. Don't do it really detailed. Go on. It takes such a long time. Why do you have to make everything as perfect as you always do? But I thought, no, I want to make it perfect, or I don't do it. I want to have this kind of special look, or it doesn't make any sense. I kept giving myself little projects next to the normal work I was doing. This was a project I thought was really cool. I think if people go to the shop and buy expensive Chanel gear but have another energy drink in their hands, how cool would it be to have a Chanel No. 5 infused energy drink? So I started dreaming about it and thought about a video that you could make with this. Later on, of course, NFT suddenly was there, and I started to think, okay, that would be cool. This is a project I'm working on as well. I thought it would be really cool to think about, we've got our iPhones and we all throw them away when there's a new one. With an iPhone, you can do it, but imagine what would happen if you would have a Tesla bot, which is not far away, and you would have version 1, but you want version 2. So what's going to happen to version 1? It's got arms and legs, and it can think about itself. It's got its artificial intelligence. It's going to be this renegade robot looking for some kind of electricity source for it to keep being alive. So I thought it would be interesting to see how these renegade robots would look like, what they would look like, and how I could get my skills up and up and up a level. Then COVID happened. My company, my advertising company, completely went down the drain. Project stopped. There was nothing I could earn some money on, and I was like, okay, I can do this for a little while, but not for a long while. I have to find a different source of income. The good thing with COVID was that everybody was working remote. So it was normal to talk with people only on screen. It was normal to work with people that you have never seen before. So suddenly, things that in the past were wrong, you have to be in the studio, you have to have your client next to you, was suddenly not a case anymore. And the cool thing was I could meet up with teams outside of Holland easy. I was still in Amsterdam at that moment, and could do jobs with them. So this, for instance, was for a Spanish company, and they were doing series for Netflix. For instance, Sky Rojo, one of the series. And they would ask me to work remote on digital assets. So basically, digital body doubles of objects or animals or whatever they needed for shots they couldn't film in reality. And for me, the cool thing was they wanted this top-notch kind of quality. It needed to be a complete body double with all the details, with all the fine things, the scratches, everything needed to be the same as the real one. So for me, having this Photoshop background this background where I wanted to only get high detailed things, it was amazing to see that I could, I cannot make all these little details. Really? Do I have the time for this? Amazing. So for me, it was a really cool experiment to start building my skills in this direction. Sometimes it was only a screen of a car they needed, and sometimes they had a shot they normally would do live. That would be difficult to do because this is end of the day, so you've got only one little moment where the sun is the same, and if you have to redo the shot several times, and they were afraid of this, it's not the way to go. So they said, you know what, the light's going to change in real life, so we're going to do it in the studio. We're going to remodel the car the same way the real car is. We're going to make the materials the same, and we're going to comp it. For me, this was like Photoshop, but on steroids. Suddenly I was doing animation. Suddenly I was working with a big team. I had to learn many things that I didn't know before, but with the same kind of tools and the same kind of background, and the important thing, the same eye. Objects became more complex, and Casa de Papel, one of the other series I worked on, we started to build objects partly from stock, and partly we had to alter them to match the real the real object we needed to make. So I started to talk with the team I was working with to see, okay, how we're going to do this. What do we need to change? So I started to supervise the modeling a little bit, which was a new project for me, a new kind of job for me. And I was doing lighting and materials. With my photography background, it was a love at first sight, and I love to do materials and lighting and tweak it until it's photoreal. Got some more details here for you. And then, of course, in the shot, suddenly it's only a small helicopter and it's got motion blur. So really, did we build all the detail for this? You never know what you're going to see or what you're not going to see. And I always believe that you need the detail for it to feel real, although you don't always also see all the details. The helicopter, of course, lived in this icy world. Basically, the oil rig was shot in the harbor in Spain here somewhere, but we needed to build this icy world for it to live there. So basically, we modeled the bottom of the ship because it had the reflections of the ice, which we needed, and we modeled the ice, made all kind of materials. I was responsible for the oil rig most of the time, and of course, my helicopter came back, and suddenly there were like multiple objects I made into this shot, and this was a complex shot I needed to think about, and I was taken along with my supervisor to learn and to understand more about how to do this the right way. Project became more complex. We needed to do body objects also. So this pavo, this peacock, we needed to model for one of the other series, Sagrada Familia, also for Netflix. It was quite an ordeal to get it real. We needed to animate it. There were two shots that were important. One shot was basically a close shot where it was just opening his mouth a little bit. And the other shot was more wide because we had to have the space for the radiating feathers. Looked kind of cool in the end. I was pretty happy with it. And another one to learn from. So then, it's not always the case that you do something that is photoreal or photorealistic. Sometimes it's more cartoony and sometimes it's more surreal. For instance, this shot, it's part of a video for Labyrinth, an artist who I really like. His video clip featured a Mercedes Cabrio. And of course, there was a real Cabrio in the studio, and they shot the girl and the singer inside. But at one moment, it crashes and it makes this turn in the sky. Of course, you cannot do that in the studio. And also the car had damage. We couldn't make this damage. So we had to do it in CG. We made a CG version with damage and then started to look at the materials. And we kind of made this in between. Is it real? Is it kind of stylized material? It's always this kind of balance with Casa de Papel, for instance, much more real, here, more stylized. And if you see the final frames, looks really cool and really stylized. I'm stoked with this. It's a really beautiful, surrealistic kind of shots. Last thing I wanted to show you is where I am at the moment. Of course, Unreal Engine is something that's really popular. Making virtual backgrounds is something that we all know from the Mandalorian and from other series. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It has got its limitations, but we had to build this background for a Netflix series, Sky Rojo. We made this forest with kind of, foggy and dark, and there was this car chase inside the forest. And in the end, we decided to do it in studio. So basically, the virtual background behind it, the camera was on this side, shooting through the windshield, shooting through the back window, and then behind all kind of layers of mist, because you can see there's all kind of mist here. You would see something of the background. But it was a nice experiment, a nice project, learned a lot. And basically, this is where we are right now. So in a few minutes, what was my career and what kind of projects did I do? Part two, how do you build your brand? How do you get to be the company you want to be? How do you get to be the freelancer you want to be? How do you get the projects you want? So basically, success, it's visibility, it's skills, it's hard work, it's consistency, it's focus, a bit of luck also, and to plan your ideas, to plan or have ideas. The hard work, well, this shows shows everything. You work at night, you work through the night, sometimes graveyard shift, sometimes all night. And the next day, yes, you've got a whole mailbox full of corrections from your client. And okay, we're going to do these again. And another night. So most of the people, they see these movie shots and they're like, oh, you're on set, wow. No, most of the time it's like this. Most of the time it's like this. Thank you, Siri. I'm going to shut you down now. So, and most of the time it's like this, kind of stupid, behind the computer, working all night. Skills, it is about honing your skills, getting better, getting more quality, being eager to get your quality up. You can say, I'm good enough. Why should I learn? Well, you should learn always. You should try to get better if you want to get to a new level. If you want to be somebody who other people want to hire. Everybody in the job is good. Everybody. So try to be better. Visibility, social media, very important. The funny thing is, my biggest jobs, my biggest clients, the biggest names in the business, I got through taking people serious on Instagram. If you send me a message, I reply normally. Sometimes I don't have the time, but I try to reply. Many people say, Instagram, it's only for people who are fake and blah, blah, blah. For me, it really helped me to build a brand. It helped me to connect to clients who I never would have met otherwise. And lately got me contacts in places that I'm really happy about. So when you've got your work, you've got your quality, you've got your visibility on social media, then suddenly the step is there that you can talk to brands. And for me, one of the brands I was really enjoying because of my career, because of something that I hold in my hand all day, because of the fact that it's the only tangible thing in my whole virtual work, I really liked Wacom, and I got in contact with one of the people high up, and somehow we had it off. We had a great connection, and they started to support me, and I started to say, okay, what do you want back for this support? How can it be in balance? They opened doors for me. They put me on stage. They put me like in this talk now. They put me on events talking about color, talking about light, talking about my eye, talking about my experience. And of course, this is great to do. And it's amazing feeling to be on stage and get this backup from a company like this, which is many times bigger than my own brand. So it's always interesting to attach yourself to a bigger brand. What I want back is hard work again. Sometimes I'm just on the booth, giving demos, helping people with why does it not work, or why don't I know how to use this. I never felt myself too big or too good to do this kind of stuff. Also, it's hard work, but it's so much fun, and it's really nice to connect with people who are young and who want to maybe get into the position you are, or maybe it's really nice to do. I also was doing masterclasses in my studio, again, showing the latest equipment, showing latest techniques, sometimes for photographers, sometimes for illustrators or artists, sometimes for just people who are consumers. Doesn't matter, I just wanted to show what I was doing, and every time presenting myself in the same way, every time over and over repeating my story, showing who I am, what I'm doing, what I stand for, trying to get this message across every time. Another story, another stage, also really good, was about visual storytelling. Sometimes it was about techniques, and it was a very technical thing, and show only how did I build this shot. Different, but also good. And sometimes, which was also very handy, in-house at companies. This is at an advertising agency. They took me in because they wanted to learn more about Wacom tools. And I said, okay, I can come, I can bring some tools. We can do a workshop together with your art department. But the cool thing is, once you're in, once they know your name, once you've came in because I'm Wieger Poutsma, no, I'm Wieger Poutsma working together with Wacom, they take you seriously. So if work is coming out or they have a problem, who are they going to call? Me. Another cool thing about visibility, I did many YouTube videos, sometimes with resellers, sometimes with Wacom only. Really cool to do, talk about new gear. Again, look at what's on screen. I'm branding myself inside the video. I'm branding myself inside this project. So every time, I'm always wearing the same kind of shirt. I'm always have the same kind of look. I'm trying to become this icon that everybody recognizes. If I have a different look every time, who are they going to recognize? Nobody. To be 360, to do everything, I also thought it was important to write. I'm not a good writer. I'm dyslexic as you know what. But first I was asked to do interviews because I was doing work that people knew. And after those interviews, I thought, maybe I can write myself. And I started to write about equipment, about gear, about my experience with Wacom, in which I could link Wacom again to another group of possible consumers. So it's always thinking two-way street. It's never only taking, it's always taking something, of course. I want this brand, I want to be connected to it, but also giving enough and giving more than enough for the brand to see that, okay, you're interesting for us. Consistency, I talked about it before, about this video. I really wanted to make everything inside the light bulb the way it is in reality. People were like, you just get something with TurboSquid, slap it in and do it. You can do that, but I wanted it real. Why? Because I think people will notice this. I think it's important that everything you send out, every little balloon you throw into the world needs to be something that is quality-wise, because people will always have seen the one you're not proud of. And the funny thing is, this was 2020, and now we're here, and suddenly Wacom is asking, do you have that animation still? Because we like it, and it kind of triggers something in me. Can we use it? Of course you can use it. How cool is it that 3 years afterwards, somebody notices what I did in this animation? Always important to get this quality up. Signature work, you have to have a focus. You have to have something that defines you. Who are you? If you don't know who you are, what you want to show to the world, who's going to hire you? Because then, who are you? This is also why I changed my company. I had Fisk Imaging, basically a retouching company, and making more and more steps into CG, but basically a retouching company, and trying to make very well-known images, and images that stand out over the rest. My new company is focused on animation, on video, on motion pictures, on completely different direction. Same tools, same person, it's just me, but different direction. I decided I needed a new tool to do this, because people tend to put you in a box. And if I say I'm still Fisk Imaging, then they're like, you do retouching, yes? You're not into the motion pictures and series. Okay. Also, clients are different. If you look at this, and we'll go through this a little bit quickly, I see the clients of my old company were really advertising brands. Big brands, big names. I'm happy with it. I'm proud of it. But 2021, if I look at it, it's really advertising. And I was done with advertising a little bit. I needed to be motivated with something new. If you look at my new company now, you see that a lot changed. Also, you see the way I present it. Look at the top block. If you see what's going on there, a lot changed. And if you project this to the future, you see what I'm aiming at. This doesn't say I will not do my best for Coca-Cola or Heineken or Wacom. I will give it my all. But if there is a focus and if there is a possibility to focus, I'll keep my focus. I keep my eye on the ball. I keep my true north. I try to focus on the things I believe in. This is not easy because then sometimes you make choices not to do another job, or what do I want to show people? Because people will put you in the box again. And if they put you in the wrong box, they're never going to hire you at Prime Video or HBO or Miramax or who else. You know, it's important the way you try to focus the intention of your company. Focus on your true north. Part 3. The elephant in the room. This is something interesting. I'm happy we're doing this talk now, because if we had done this talk a year ago, it would have been a different talk. It would have been a different situation. We would have lived in a different world. I think this will explain a lot. When the steam engine came, everybody was afraid of it. And they were like, well, we got the horses. We don't need the steam engine. In a way true, but in a way not true, because the steam engine didn't have to drink, it didn't have to eat, it didn't die, it just went. And it made our life easier. It made our life so easy that we went away from steam and we went to electricity. We went away from trains to airplanes, and now maybe back to trains again. Things change. When I started my career, I would never have thought that I would ever stop doing retouching. I loved retouching. I was like, wow, this is. It blew my mind what was possible in the computer with my tools. But I got a little bit bored of it, to be honest. But also, the market changed a lot, and the market that changed made it so difficult for me to earn my living. If you want to have a business, if you want to run a business, you have to look over the horizon. You have to see what's going on. And it's not always a pretty picture. When I started retouching, everything was analog. Clients came to us with already a selection of photographs, negative or transparency. We would scan it. We would earn some money with those scans, and then we would retouch the images, put them together, make composition, and then in the beginning even made a new original. We made a new negative or a new slide, a new transparency. Later on, we just delivered the digital file. But like I said, I'm a dinosaur. I thought this would, continue. Especially because the photographer said to me, digital, we will never go digital. Never, because look at the quality and it's so poor, blah, blah, blah. No, digital is not for us. It doesn't have any soul. It doesn't have feeling. We're not going to do it. Right. They were correct in the beginning. They were correct because digital was still an investment. Keep this in mind. When clients like Nike or other clients start to say to the photographers, listen, photographer, if you don't shoot digital, we're not going to work with you. This is interesting because then suddenly the photographer has a different motivation why they should make that jump. And within half a year time, really within half a year, everybody made the jump. They had to because the client forced them to. And suddenly there's no soul in this. There was no, we don't want to do this. There was only like, wow, it can be really fast. We can produce a lot more. And they saw the advantages as a businessman. And sometimes you have to think as a creative, as an artist. Sometimes as a businessman. Interesting moment. If you start thinking about this, it's shocking for me because I lost 1/3 of my business because 1/3 of my business was making scans. Damn, there goes my business. Okay, well, 1/3 I can handle. So I went along with this. Then we got a new innovation. Suddenly, everybody had this one. It even starts talking during my my talk now. In a way, we first thought, oh, it's only a telephone. Oh yeah, haha, it's got some apps. Yeah, funny, eh? Yeah, oh, you can change your face. That's funny, haha. It was an infant still. Again, it was an infant, and everybody laughed. Everybody was kind of thinking it will never change the world. But, did it? The iPhones became more and more powerful. The apps became very innovative, and companies like Photoshop, Adobe, had difficulty keeping up because the problem was they started in a world where, for instance, an image was only 8-bit deep, so you had only a certain amount of color depth. If your whole core of your program is based around this, it's very difficult to change it because the whole workflow changed. They started to do to build their software in a time where we're still working analog, and suddenly everything is digital, everything is raw, color depth is way bigger, and you had apps that were 99 euro cents or free that were doing things that I didn't have those fancy tools in Photoshop. The tools became better, Photoshop became better, but not as good as the iPhone. And then the funny thing happened that on Monday morning, I would talk to art buyers or producers, and they would be in the club on Saturday evening. And in the club, they would make selfies with their friends, and then they would make themselves a little bit more skinny, or let's give myself a bit six pack, or let's change the color grading a little bit. And on Monday morning, they would ask me, well, we've got 4 portraits. Can you retouch those? They need to be a little bit more skinny, and they need to be a little bit more, can you make them a bit more sporty? And a color grading. How much does it cost? I would say, well, in Photoshop, it costs you half a day per image. And they would like, pardon? Half a day? I did it in 5 minutes. What's going on? Okay, so I was angry at that. I was angry at iPhone. I was angry at this development because it made my business difficult. How do I do business in a world where suddenly these tools, they change so much? And I saw that iPhone was growing, and there was iPad, so not only in size but also in the quality of the tool. iOS was growing, and I saw that iPhones and iPads became more like a laptop, and laptops looked much, much, much more like an iPhone suddenly. Not only in color, but also in the way they function. So I saw coming, oh damn, so iOS is going to be OS. So it's not going to be Photoshop in the future, maybe. It's going to be other tools. It's not going to be the way we used to work before. I think you all feel where this is going. This didn't change. I decided after this revolution, I didn't want to be angry anymore about my work, because it didn't help me. You can shout in the desert about a steam engine that's passing by. It doesn't help you. It will pass by. Of course, this is where we're going. The Pandora's box is open now. Artificial intelligence, and you can think about it what you want. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to give my only my opinion. I try to look at it from a perspective of how do you build your brand? How do you build your business around a world that's evolving so fast? So it has been around a little bit already. In Photoshop, I used to retouch with the original cloning retouching tools because I knew those tools really well. They were replaced by smart tools. In the beginning, I didn't like them because where did my artisan craft go? It went away. My God, why? But after it developed, after it went from this infant to adult, the tools were really good. They were good enough. They were strong enough. They were more flexible than my old workflow. So in Photoshop already there's a lot going on. Then you got Topaz, for instance, making tools to upres your image. In the past, I had one that just looked at the pixel information, just made it bigger. But now it says, AI helps me. I know what a face looks like. I know what a nose looks like, an eye, something like this. Cool, I can upres this, and I can think about these other pixels and draw them in for you to make a picture perfect high-res image. This is powerful, and this helps me. This does things that I couldn't have done before. Clients will ask for this, and if the clients ask for it, I have to deliver, just with the digital and the analog. Then you've got Firefly, and you've got some beta versions of Photoshop that you can just tell Photoshop, okay, I make a mask, I want some sky here, and it blends all kind of sky things. It makes something for you. It's an interesting development. Is it there yet? No. Is it scary? Yes. Is it the future? I'm afraid so. Maybe not for everything. Maybe from the bottom up, the first 50%. I don't know. Let's hope it stays there. But I also wanted to look at other tools. There are so many tools. You've got tools, doing um, prompt to point cloud, making 3D objects. Thinking about, I've got two photographs in photogrammetry, and I want the whole 3D object. It knows what the object looks like in our AI, so it makes it. But also in Midjourney, it's interesting to look at what is going on. I need to get my head around this tool. I need to understand what's going on. These images in the past with Herminola, for instance, would have cost a huge amount of money and a lot of time to make. Look at the detail only in the background with this fish. This is an image I made with a prompt. A prompt made in 10 minutes, and the image was like, this was the second attempt. In 4 or 5 minutes, I had an image like this. Is it completely without copyright? I don't know. I'm not here to judge that part. Just look at it as a basic technique, what's going on. If you see this and you draw the line through analog to digital, through iPhone, through this, you will see it will happen. And as soon as the market embraces it, and the market is embracing it, I've got clients who tell me, listen, you're going to make an example and AI is going to make an example, and we're going to pick the best one. Or this is the sketch made by AI, you built on this. This happens now. It's happening now. You have to be aware of it. You have to think about it. I was playing with images, and I like the romance of, let's say, 80s, 70s stewardesses. So I thought, let's combine this with an Emirates kind of golden feel and a golden hour, like light coming into the airplanes, and make these futuristic stewardesses in airplanes. This was random. I could make 40 images in a night, 40 iterations in a night. Imagine this. Normally, this, for me as an artist, would not have been possible. It's happening now. We have to think about something about this. But this was all random. Then I thought, okay, can I start to choreograph them? Can I make them smile? Can I make them look a bit like this? Can I let them bring food? Can I let them open a cupboard in the pantry and do something? It can. And now at this moment, I'm learning Midjourney, a special character. And I can make it smile, I can make it be angry, I can make it do things. Totally different and abstract way of working, but it's there. I'm doing a lot of the research together with a good friend of mine, Michel Mulder, a Dutch photographer who is amazing at telling stories already in his photography. I think because he's a better storyteller than I am, he's doing a huge job. He's really killing it with these images. Go to his website or go to his Instagram, even better. Check what he's doing. Look at what's going on with this hamburger and the rain and the sauce coming out of it, and the look of her face, and the light coming like a lagoon from the pool, lighting the underside of the faces and everything. Look at his expression. Look what's going on. There's something going on here, and there's something that is scary but also mesmerizing. That is maybe not completely legally correct, but also like it's like mind-blowingly beautiful, and the possibilities are endless. That's something that we really need to think about, and that's not going away. I wanted to end on a little bit more positive note. Facts and one-liners. I thought after this serious thing that maybe a lot of people are afraid of or don't know what to think about, maybe it's good to end with a few things that I would like to have known before I started. Nobody knows everything. It's kind of logic that if you're a boxer, you go to one gym, and then after you've learned everything there's to learn, you go to another gym and you learn new things. Clients come to me and they say, today you have to make this snake, and tomorrow you're building a bird, and next day you're building... Hold on. These are different disciplines. I need to keep learning things. you don't know anything. And it's okay to sometimes say, I don't know this, but I'll research it, I'll look into it if you want. Or keep training, just keep training. Keep training yourself, see yourself as this boxer. Go to a different gym. There is so much material around on Instagram, on internet, on everywhere you can learn something, and it's really important you dive into this. Get inspired away from the screen. Don't only look at the screen and don't only look at your discipline. It gets incestuous when you just look at 3D images if you're a 3D artist and you only start to believe in this 3D world and it becomes like your reality and your own field, the thing you only know. But there's a world outside. And it's more real and it's more interesting. Get your inspiration from other disciplines. I learned how to do the detailing on the car and on the helicopter by looking at this guy on Instagram who was doing a lot of airplanes, military airplanes, and making them dirty. Just, scale models. I was inspired by the way he was doing it. I converted it into something I use. Sometimes I go to events where they show the fabrics they're going to make clothing of, or the material they're going to make clothing of, just to see what colors will do the next few years. Because if it's now the fabric, it's going to be the fashion, it's going to be advertising. Follow the line. It's not real. So many people, they say, oh, but I'm doing simulation, but the simulation software is correct. No, it's just simulation software. It simulates something. It can be very detailed, but it's a simulation and it's a simplified version of reality. So sometimes you do something and you're like, oh, this looks good. But when in doubt, maybe, and it's not only with simulations, it's also with something that, sometimes you put something together when it doesn't look good to your eyes. And software says, well, these colors match together or it's perfect. If it doesn't look good, change it. You're the one in the driver's seat. Find your true north and stick to it. I found my true north when I was a little boy seeing Star Wars. I forgot about it and life happened and I was doing my advertising work. I was pretty happy with it, learned a lot. All these skills ended up being necessary for me to evolve into what I'm doing now. But I finally chose for my profession that I saw as the little boy. And now I see that I can do this. And this is the most important one, I think. I nicked this one, sorry, Igor Beuker, but you're completely right. Passion, purpose, paycheck. If you don't have passion, if you don't build your purpose to getting something done with that passion, the paycheck will not come. If you only think about paycheck, nobody will give you the job because it's not about the paycheck in the beginning. If passion is there, if you use this passion to do something with purpose, paycheck will follow. Thank you for watching. It is a really short one, but I think it's interesting, and I hope that you all learn something from this. You can follow me on Instagram if you want. You can follow me on ArtStation if you want. Feel free. If you've got questions, you can always ask me there. But I think we've got some time here now, and I'm handing back to Onur. Onur, are you there?
I'm here. Yes. Thank you, Wieger. That was really inspiring, and it's always so much fun and mind eye-opening to learn more about your past, how you got to be this amazing artist that you are today. And I was personally very happy to hear that it was Star Wars and at some point Dire Straits that had such an effect.
For sure, yeah.
We have a couple of questions in the chat, and also I have questions of my own. Something that in the previous session where we had Samyang, he also highlighted a couple of points that you also mentioned today. And this is always great to see across different disciplines, different artists having the same perspective on things. And you mentioned and emphasized the importance of making sure that your work is of the utmost quality. In that sense, when you are working on the light bulb animation that is right now our key visual for this event, or some other similar projects, when do you know that it's done? and not lose yourself in this rabbit hole of constant corrections endlessly?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Well, most of with the light bulbs it was very easy. At one moment it was New Year's Eve, and I just had to send it out into the world. I kind of made it, send it 2 weeks later. I remember because I was not happy yet. Listen, these last 10%, the first 90% is doable, first 80%. These last 10 or 20%, that's the difficult part. It has to be pleasing to your eye. It has to be something. I always try to create this world where I would like to live, where I would like to look around. And if something is too technical, or if the technical part of the project is standing in the way, or the roughness of the project is standing in the way of what you're trying to tell, then it's not finished for me. But then again, sometimes I can enjoy really, really a lot when I look at old painters, old masters, and you see that the face is really detailed. And then the more you go to the side of the image, to the borders, there is a lot less detail. Or sometimes you see another artist that makes drawings really rough, but it feels good. It needs to feel good. There needs to be a soul. There needs to be this feeling. If it's there and you're happy with it as an artist, then you're done, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So a couple of questions from our viewers. Anna had a lot of questions, so I will start with one and then we will proceed from there. Any advice on how to talk to big companies? Because we assume it should be a little bit more different than just talking to a peer, or is it not?
Yeah, it is. Being from Amsterdam, I've got my heart on my tongue, as we say. That's the difficult part, and you have to accept that you're not going to be successful every time. You have to accept that you will make mistakes, and you will lose clients because of those mistakes. I believe that when it's meant to be, then people make an effort. Why is it that my relationship with Wacom now is? I was thinking about the other day. It's more than 14 years that we're working together and doing things together, and there was never a difficult moment. And why sometimes you work with a client and within 10 minutes you're like, "My God, how do we do this?" Because this is getting difficult. The more corporate, the more money, the more things are important for many different areas of the project, the more difficult it gets. I wished I had a good salesperson in my company that could sell me, but I haven't, so I had to do it myself. And it's trial and error. It's just difficult. Talking to a peer is easy. Talking to somebody who maybe doesn't have a visual language, even in the way he talks or she talks, or is only interested in the number below the line, or that's a different thing. That's different. That's not easy. Just trial and error. You make mistakes. Okay, next one better.
Mhm. Yeah, you have to always push forward and focus forward, I suppose.
Yeah.
Another question, and it's funny because you mentioned something similar. Like the question is, do you recommend hiring a brand manager, marketing manager for your brand, or is it enough to work on your brand, post content on your own? In a similar way, like when you are super focused on a work that you cannot
Yeah.
share possibly, how do you keep your social media profile, your visibility active, and keep that engagement and the constant content that the platforms demand from you now?
Yeah. That's difficult. Somehow I never found the person I was looking for. I never found this brand manager, or I never found this agent, or maybe it's me, maybe it's I didn't look in the right places. I don't know. I've seen for other people that it could work. Yeah, but also I'm kind of sometimes micromanaging things as well, to be honest. And I decided, okay, if I do it myself, a few things will happen. When I'm really busy, I don't have the time. And when I've got time, I should have had business and should have been busy. So you're always too late if it's about new projects. And with social media, I think you can make a bigger punch if you if you have somebody who can do it for you. But you also have to be lean and mean. I think if I learned one thing from the past, I always invested a lot in equipment, a lot in, well, many things that made my company top heavy. Basically, what COVID did, what the pandemic did, is that all that top heavy BS kind of dropped away from us for a big part. And now you can be a small, lean and mean company, and people understand that if you got two hands, you can do only one thing. And the good thing about the generation after me, or the generations after me, they're so clever with social media. They're so clever with the way to present themselves. I struggle with that a lot more, being the dinosaur. But I think you have to, well, you don't have to, but if you want to be this freelancer, don't get top heavy. Don't get a lot of people with a lot of high salaries in your company, and try to stay lean and mean. Try to be able to wait until the right job comes without having high costs to pay. Those are lessons I learned from the past. So I think, yeah, it would be great to have somebody who does it for me, but it's also fun. And sometimes I didn't hear a lot from other people, or sometimes I don't hear a lot from me. And then it's fun to see them again, because, I learned this rule of 3 times repeat yourself and people will hang on to it. But you can also repeat yourself too many times. And also, being a one person, my production is also not that high that I can, have content every day. If you're a big company, you've got like 20 artists working or 100 artists working, you can post something every day if you want, if you don't have NDAs that prohibit you from it. But, this is also something, we talked about this before, Onur. My best images I cannot show now. I could show a blank screen because my best images are in the pipeline. My best projects, the things I would like to show you, I cannot, because they're prohibited from showing by NDAs. You sign a contract, and for instance, in the motion picture industry, it takes half a year to a year, if not longer, until somebody says, well, it's online now, you can share it. It's difficult.
Indeed. But also, it's even more reasons for us to keep an eye on your social profiles. One day,
Yep.
the cool stuff will drop.
Yep.
Okay. Next question. You call yourself a digital dinosaur, and you look like exceptionally well for a dinosaur. But this question is more about health, like working in front of screens or on mobiles for so many hours, for so many years. What are your tips or recommendations when it comes to maintaining health on your back, on your eyes, on your
Yeah.
body overall?
Yeah. Well, maybe this sounds like advertising, and I assure you it's not, because you guys always told me that I could speak my mind about equipment. None of any equipment from any brand will ever be ergonomically perfect. But my connection with Wacom always showed me that you were trying to do everything to get it as ergonomically as possible. I've worked with a physiotherapist, and he told me that, listen, it doesn't matter what kind of situation you create for yourself, it will always be the wrong one if you spend more than 10 hours per day after in the same situation. So the big trick is to change chairs. The big trick is to go to the gym when possible, to eat healthy. And it sounds like silly, but if you are 25, 26, it doesn't matter. And I did this also. I kind of, I did crazy stuff, work all night, sit on a beer crate at a photo shoot behind a screen that was not working properly. And, you can throw with your body during those days, but especially now, and this is where your age comes in. For me, yeah, you do feel things. So go to the gym, try to eat as healthy as possible, and try to get away from the screen. Go to a good museum, go to see some nature or something, because it will inspire you and you will come back refreshed and have new ideas. But whatever you do, working more than 10, 15 hours per day, 7 days a week, you'll get some problems with this, of course. Yeah.
Mhm. Indeed. So now that we have covered the physical health, let's go into the mental health. How do you deal with art block?
Sorry, how?
How do you deal with art block when you find yourself in a creative corner? How do you get yourself out of there?
I call my daughters. I've got two amazing daughters, and they well, I had this in the project. I'm not going to say names, but I was doing a project that was very important for me. And then in the past, I would always make every project important. So nothing was important anymore because everybody was important. The small ones, the big ones, the small clients, the big clients. So I had this even feeling. But after COVID and after getting bashed around a little bit by life, everybody loses a little bit of that bulletproof security. So you get a bit more insecure, and you get this huge job out of nothing. You're like, Madre mia, I'm going to do this. This is interesting, but and you walk around this job, and I want to not repeat myself. So every time I want to make something new. And sometimes I'm stuck, and then I'm lucky to be able to call one of my daughters and say, "Listen, you have to help Daddy. Tell me something." And then they say something to me and then it happens. So, but that's my trick. You can probably call them, but they will charge, I'm sure.
Well, they should definitely. All right. Going into the last two questions and
Yeah,
bringing the conversation back to really tactical work advice. You have worked with so many big clients and with companies. What kind of portfolios do they want to see? What really gets their attention in terms of when
yeah.
showing them your portfolio or your workflow?
That's a difficult one again. There was a time when when an iPad was new. You could get a date with an art director just by saying, "I can show my portfolio on iPad," but that's gone. That was just a gimmick. Um, I used to print out my portfolios. That doesn't work either. And if you work in videos, of course, that doesn't work at all. Sometimes I think people are interested in seeing a big array of different projects, so they see your flexibility and what you can do. But then sometimes you get back, so what's the box I can put you in? You do this, but you do that. How can you? Sometimes I think, okay, so I'm in a niche. This is my true north. So I only focus on this. I only show this. I show it, and people are like, "Is this all you have in your portfolio? Can you not show more?" So you have to feel a little bit. I always ask questions before I go in. If I go in, because nowadays it's not happening that much anymore. What do you expect to see? What do you want me to bring? It's a normal question, and if they react like, "Why do you ask?" Well, because I've got a big array of different things I could show you, and I want to be taking up as little as time of you as needed, just to get you something you want to see. So if there's something particularly looking for, let's see if I can match that. If you want to see just an overview of what I did, or an overview of the kind of techniques I have, I can give you that as well. Nowadays, we transfer portfolios as a PDF, works fine. Have a video, works fine. People look on your social media, so having your social media on fleek is a good idea. The stupid thing is people look more at followers than they look at content. That's a silly thing, but hey, it's not my world. I didn't create this. So it's important to build your follower base, because followers makes jobs. I've been literally in meetings with clients where a colleague of mine was sitting next to me, me with my Instagram with a lot of followers, him with a regular Instagram with only a small group of followers. He was better for the job, but I got chosen. I got picked. I asked him afterwards. I said, "Listen," he was sent away. I said to the art directors, "Listen, do you understand? You sent away the guy who would have given you the golden product. You realize He said, yeah, but you've got so many followers. Sorry, it's about your product, right? It's not about the followers. Nobody's going to see my followers. They're all going to see your final product you're going to deliver. What's going on? This happens. At least it happened to me. Portfolio PDF not too big. Recent work. If you have to pick 1 out of 3, pick the only one you're proud of. The more you narrow down it to your true north, the more you will get picked for your true north. So maybe that's a good advice.
Perfect. And I think it's also really incredible advice that you can ask people what do they want to see. And
Yeah.
when you ask people questions, like people like to answer questions. It's a great advice, actually. So thank you for that. Last question before we wrap up. So over the years, you have worked with countless clients in different teams. What was the best advice and the worst advice you got from a peer or maybe a superior or a client? What was the best and worst feedback or advice you received?
That's a difficult one. Maybe the best advice I got is to shut up a little bit more and just do the work and not have my heart on my tongue like the Amsterdam people have. Maybe that was good advice. And when I was younger and more fired up, sometimes I should have just shut up and do the work. The worst advice. Well, I had clients tell me, listen, we're doing this project for this brand, and I want you to change the project so it meets the terms of this contest that I want to add the work into better, but thereby deviating the best picture for the client. And then they would say, listen, I really want you to change the picture, because if we do it this way, we can send it into the contest. And of course, I didn't do it. I said, but then again, I've got my heart on my tongue again. I said, listen, let's first get your client happy. And if your idea was good enough, then maybe you can win a contest. But maybe we should just first focus on the client and on the one who's paying the money for this project, and then see what will happen after. But so it was not really an advice. It was basically like a different direction. I didn't get bad advice, actually. Or I just didn't listen, can also be. I don't know.
Water of a duck's back. Okay. I'm checking the chat one last time, but I think we have answered, if not all, most of the questions. And now it's actually time to wrap up. Wieger, thank you so much. This was a treat. And it's always super fun and insightful to have these conversations with you. So thanks a lot.
Thank you too for being here, and to the next one.
Absolutely, to the next one. But before we go, a big thank you to all of you who have joined us and enjoyed this conversation. Please go ahead and follow Wieger if you haven't already done so. You heard it. He has his best work in the pipeline now, so who knows when they will drop, and you don't want to miss it. Don't forget to check out the special offer we have for you on our Europe and UK e-store. Once again, you can find a link for more information in the video description. And that's it from us today. But tomorrow we will be back with 2 talks featuring Kaya Kuhn and Lesejo Forster from Triggerfish Animation Studios. It will be a day jam-packed with insights and information on the animation industry. So we hope to see you there tomorrow. Until then, take care and thank you again.